Diana Rankin says, instead of thinking about where you are, think about where you want to be. It takes 20 years of hard work to become an overnight success. In order to attract your life opportunities, we will combine the concepts of the law of attraction and the law of manifestation, very famous these days. The law of attraction says that you attract situations and people that resonate with your own frequency. I like to use the metaphor of walking up the stairs in a large building, going from floor to floor. When you're in the first floor, you meet the people and the houses or the flats or the dogs or the circumstances that belong to the first floor. You can't possibly meet the people on the third floor because you are not there. They are not here. At that moment, it is not a synchronicity. Then you go up to the next floor, and then you will meet other people and circumstances belonging to that second floor, and so on and so forth. In energy terms, the law of attraction says that you attract to yourself the good and bad experiences that match where you are at each moment, your thoughts, intentions, and actions at each given time, exactly and perfectly. So, if you feel that you deserve love, you will find love. But if you feel that you deserve something bad because you harbor feelings of guilt or shame, then that is what you will attract. In the first example, you will attract a flow of good events in your life. And in the second example, you will attract struggle matching the negative energy that you put out because of your negative self-belief. And most of us are a combination of both, on and off, this and that. But many people say, that's not fair. But in fact, in a strange sort of way, and after years of studying the laws of how the universe functions, I understand that since we are here by choice, and in order to learn life lessons, the only way for us to learn such lessons is by seeing them mirrored right in front of us by the external circumstances, people and events. I'm not going to get into the notion that we live in a holographic universe, because we do. And all that actually exists is us is in me. All I exist is I, the rest is a projection. Everything else is also me, because we are all connected. We are all one and the same. And I won't get into the notion that we project everything, but what I would like to mention is that in physical terms, this law means that you attract to yourself the job, relationship, level of abundance that is perfectly compatible with you at any given moment, as well as the struggle manifested as effort on your quest to move towards the life that you want for yourself. Usually from where we stand, it seems a chaotic law with erratic results, one that creates seemingly unpredictable and inconsistent events. But as we grow spiritually, we realize that the universe is exact, just like a mathematical equation, and that what we attract is not the external representation of a thought of belief or pattern of behavior, but the feeling and the intention, the reflection of the deepest truth of whom we are. And this is why it is so difficult to link the action with the reaction. On the other hand, the law of manifestation says that you manifest your thoughts. In energy terms, this law relates to the more commonly known idea that where attention goes, energy flows. In physical terms, it means that we create our present reality at the highest level of faith we place in the universe to provide for us, the highest level of self-belief that we can realize, the highest level of surrender that we can achieve, and finally, the strongest level of focus that we can hold. Our level of faith and focus are diminished in direct proportion to our doubts. This is simply a way of the mind or ego to try to explain away or control what sometimes cannot be explained. When a woman gives birth to a baby safe and soundly, when an illness recedes without any logical explanation, When a person loves you and you love them in return, how can you explain this away? How can you explain the miracle of love? How can indeed explain the miracle of being alive? No, not everything can be explained. But when we experience fear because we can't control something, because we can't foresee what is around the corner for us, we lower our frequency and we did the opportunities that we were dreaming of. This is simply because there is no room in our life for them. It's like turning into a radio station. If you connect with the right one, you will hear the program, but if you don't, you will miss the information given in that program. Our opportunities can also be like this. They may just be outside the door of our present reality, but unless we can open our heart with love and trust, unless we tune in into that station, they simply are not allowed in. This is the equivalent of wanting to hold the abundance of the universe in our hands with our fists clenched tight. But at some point in our life, we get to one of these moments in which we decide to do an inventory of what we have achieved and what we have missed out on, and the feelings that accompany that exercise will tell us whether we did good or we did not. If the feeling is negative, such as sadness, anger, or resentment, then we know that we are not in the right place to receive those desired outcomes, and that indeed we are still not in that right place either. Because resentment says that we have not accepted what is, nor what was. If, however, we have a good feeling that says, for example, that although we might have missed out on some of the things we thought we wanted, we let those opportunities pass us by because they were not true for us at that time or still now. At an energetic level, missing out on an apparent opportunity means that we were actually clever enough to prioritize our energy on the things that were the most meaningful for us at the time. That's to say, we were brave enough to let go of such opportunities which obviously belonged to someone else. And that requires a high level of emotional intelligence, intuition, and integrity. Because not all that there is in the world can be experienced by every single person in the planet. And not every single person in the planet must proactively choose every single thing available. We have to prioritize our energy according to what is right for us and according to our natural gifts. And since different opportunities belong to different individuals, it is not healthy to want to do or to have everything. We don't actually need it. And it reads of overcompensation for a lack. To keep wondering what could my life have been if years later after the events took place is really a waste of energy and time, because we are no longer that person and because the present time is gone. However, we have the present time of today. And that is when we should focus in order to proactively attract those opportunities we wish to manifest. First of all, it is always a good way to begin by understanding that no matter our choices, actions, or thoughts, we always act from our highest level of understanding. Like everybody else, always, at all times, and without exception. This realization alone should eliminate the guilt and resentment that comes from looking at the past and feelings that we missed out on an opportunity or a desired outcome. What this really means is that the first step we must take in order to look forward to the future with a heart full of hope and faith is to forgive ourselves. Only then can we forgive the others in the past or even the others in our present time. Furthermore, I can really tell you that unless we can forgive ourselves and come to terms with what we have done or not done, we can never bring good feeling, high-level opportunities to ourselves. The reason is because part of our shadow self, that unconscious energy core which runs our lives from the background, is going to be always sabotaging our best efforts in every adventure we may desire to undertake. This is called unfinished business, and indeed, we can't fool our destiny. So the second thing to do when it comes to letting go of the past and forgive ourselves in order to attract or desire life opportunities is to understand life cycles. We attract an opportunity as a means of learning a spiritual lesson, not as a means to simply make money or get a promotion. If we focus on the superficial manifestation of the lesson, we will miss the real reason for that event taking place in our lives. But if we miss the real reason for the events in our lives, we will feel powerless against what seems to be a whimsical destiny. Things feel as if they happen randomly to us. We feel as if we didn't have a choice. But this is never the case. We always have a choice to feel one way or another at every given event. You will agree with me that the most regular complaint that people make is that there is nothing they can do about something, about a particular event. For instance, if someone dear to us dies, of course it is not up to us to decide at the time and place of that death, but it's up to us to remember that person and the good times we had together, their good qualities and the impact they had in our lives. Alternatively, we can lock on to the feeling of void, the mourning stage, the feeling of abandonment or loneliness, and yes, the person will never come back to us. But the choice in this case is to decide whether we are grateful for the time we spent together or focus on the void left and forget to keep living. The first choice translates into acceptance. The second choice is a refusal to accept reality. But life is a gift. We should never forget that. It is very empowering to choose the feelings and emotions that help us create an empowered, happy world. One feeling at a time, one day at a time. I think we can sum up the whole idea with the understanding that we have two choices at how to live our life. If we choose the half-empty glass, at the end of a journey we may look back and feel that we missed out on the real reason for living. But if we choose the half-full glass, we will acknowledge to ourselves that we did everything we could to make the best of our life gifts. The question here is, which one of these statements are you prepared to live by? A long time ago, at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I made myself the solemn promise that I would be fully responsible for my emotional and stage of growth at all times. So I decided to choose positive emotions that would make me expansive and fulfilled. I realized that nobody can force another to feel a specific emotion. This means that nobody really has power over you or me. Even in the past, when my intuition was not as sharp as now, when I hadn't lived so far in my spiritual journey and I couldn't still connect my thoughts and feelings with the events taking place in my life, with their corresponding life lessons, I decided not to blame anyone, including myself. I rejected to hold on to feelings of guilt or shame. At the time, I didn't feel adequate to deal with relationships or life situations in general, but yet I decided to keep moving forward until my last day on this planet. I'm prepared to live by the statement that says that I must learn my lessons, but not by creating pain, effort, struggle, and I will no longer punish myself for perceived failures. For me today, a failed attempt at something means that I tried and didn't succeed, but I also learned something that otherwise I would not have. So failure is in fact another word for gathering tools and learning to manage my life more efficiently. I am prepared to hold the highest thought about myself, the universe, and my destiny at all times. I look at myself with compassion and realize that no matter what the current lesson may be, I am more than the lesson. Therefore, when I fail, I keep still and I give myself unconditional love. The negative feeling that in the past used to linger after a failure Today passes really fast. I wait for them to subside, and when they do, I can see reality more clearly and with more hope and love. I am therefore saying that I co-create my reality, but that is in fact me who chooses the perspective. And I choose the higher one, the one that says that I am perfect in my imperfection, that my present is perfect, exactly as it is, and that everything is as it should be at every given moment. In fact, we are masters of creation, and thus we create the perfect playground for us to experiment the exact lesson that we need to learn or to perfect. However, I must admit that it has taken me a lifetime to understand these spiritual notions of humility, surrendering, holding on to the faith of a perfect universe, and keeping my heart clean, just like that of a child that is full of innocence, always viewing the world anew. Only this way I have been able to hold on to the belief that everything is really possible, if we really want to make it happen. However, our mindset is key. For us to flow towards our dreams, we must stay balanced and harmonious in our mind, body, soul field, without pushing, forcing, or trying to control our reality. This is a tough deal and the hardest thing to ever do. Unfortunately, the fact that the present is perfect doesn't mean that we have to always like it. So when we look at our lives from this perspective, it is easy to understand that they are not the result of a chance encounter between a person and an event, but a means to reach a further level in our spiritual development, to achieve more personal power. It would therefore make sense to think that missing an opportunity is not true. It can't really happen, because the conclusion we arrived at is that our present is perfect. Therefore, every single moment of our lives is also perfect. And so we attract the perfect scenario to learn the perfect lesson at each given time. Then why should we worry about anything? We might as well surrender to our present and try to enjoy it as much as we can. And in the event that we really feel that we missed an opportunity, that means that we chose something else instead, or that someone else, or that something else was meant to come to us instead. Isn't it confusing? It may simply have been a seed placed in our heart so that the next time around, in the next cycle, we would recognize it so that we could get ready for it. The idea is that the second time around, we would have matured and learned so much more that we get ourselves into a level of entitlement and expectancy, feeling that we deserve this naturally occurring opportunity. The level of stretch of the challenge is always smaller than the first time around. Thus, it feels more natural and achievable to us. This is because practice makes perfect. By the time we recognize the signs, it means that we have completed the cycle and achieved the corresponding shifts in awareness. That was the purpose of the lesson in the first place. Because even when we did not fully succeed in realizing it, maybe it wasn't meant to. In fact, we could further say that when an opportunity appears a second time around, it is very likely that we will see it, recognize and accept it. The first attempt refocused us into making space in our lives to receive at some point this opportunity in the future. The recognition of the patterns that were blocking its arrival, the self-sabotage, and our other limitations come into the light of our consciousness. Self-doubt, self-sabotage, lack of faith in ourselves. The designation doesn't really matter. It is simply a projection of our shadow self doing its job. It will push through into our consciousness until we recognize it and own it. And if you are with me so far, I think that this is because you relate to what I'm describing. So in the following pages or videos, we will work on the issues that have prevented us so far from taking full advantage of the opportunities that belong to us, those which will keep coming back and back again until we are ready to receive them. And remember, don't feel sad if an opportunity has passed you by. It may have merely tried to show you your next level of growth that you were aspiring to. Just learn from it and make the conscious decision to prepare yourself for it the next time around. Just learn from it and make the conscious decision to prepare yourself for it the next time around. If you can't have it, it means that it wasn't meant for you. But if it is meant for you, it will keep coming until you are ready. The following exercises have been devised to be done in 2 stages. The first one is to think about the exercise by reading the text related to it. The second one is to write down your notes, your own thoughts and feelings, so that you can co-create with me your path. This is how I have always done it, and it helps cement your growth very well indeed. Journaling is magical. It would be a good idea for you to start a diary and to keep all your findings and discoveries downloaded on the paper, so as to speak. To love yourself unconditionally means to accept the good and the bad, the light and the shadow, that part of yourself that you are proud of or not proud of, the one that you want to show to others, the one you want to hide, or even the one you don't even know was there in the first place. But that part of ourselves that we disown will keep on growing out of proportion, becoming those crippling fears that we sense and that we feel that we need to face sooner or later. So why not do it sooner rather than later?